way down on the bottom of the racetrack, and he's not using that new asphalt. Look at that thing go. Ryan Vickers getting out of shape a little bit. 3 wide off that corner.
And a crowd to the inside of Jeff Gordon. Here goes Newman down across the racetrack. 4 wide. Here comes the land rush.
Wow. Now you can go 4 wide into this first corner.
Not successfully.
But can you come out 4 wide?
Yeah. Mark Martin's car is just great right there. He's right on the bottom of the racetrack and just going back to the front.
Wow. He's got a great car.
Elliott Sadler is there. So is the 18 car. Points leader Kyle Busch. Here comes Jeff Gordon on the inside of the 83 of Brian Vickers.
Looks like Sadler's car is not good in turn 1, but it's good in these other 2 corners. What lap are we on, Dale? Is this the last one?
They look like that's it. We see our points leader Kyle Busch come up on the back of Elliott Sadler there, and he goes to the inside in turn 3. He's got 4 tires, and he's trying to make that work, get a little bit of grip off that corner.
Meanwhile, back up front where Carl Edwards and Casey Kane are, they pulled away by about 0.2 of a second over Dale Earnhardt Jr.
So far, their strategy's paying off. They got out in some good clean air. You know, Casey's doesn't have quite as much clean air as Carl has, obviously, but he's able to hang right with him, and they're able to kind of pull away from everything as these guys are racing back there.
Good time to pull away from that hornet's nest back there.
Casey Kane has yet to lead a lap today. He led 5 times for 69 laps back in June.
Here we go again.
Here we go back inside the nest. The 11 car, Denny Hamlin. Robbie Gordon slips up. Hamlin goes by. Jimmy Johnson.
It's just a matter of where you catch these guys. You know, some guys are catching them at the very right spot. We see Jeff Gordon trying to go around the lap car of Chad McCumbee here. But if you catch them at the right spot, it doesn't inhibit your going to the front and your speed there. So that's the good thing if you can do that. But on the other side, if you catch them at the wrong spot, it allows everybody behind to run up on your bumper, either to get to the inside, as we see David Gilliland battling with the 12 car.
Like you get all that momentum built up, and then one time you hit that corner and there's that lap car, it just kills your momentum. It takes another lap to really get it back.
Yeah, we see Kyle Busch down on the inside there. Looks like maybe he has some of his problems figured out and headed towards the front.
Yeah, he'll make his own momentum. Kyle Busch will. Watching this telemetry, you see the RPMs these guys are turning, these big RPMs on this racetrack. We used to shift here, and we saw this 18 car, I believe it was, the last race, shifting some, even though they have a gear rule that almost makes it impossible to shift. Some of these guys have figured out how to do it a little bit, and we're watching here. You see they're turning just 8,000 RPMs as a top speed going into that corner. And then they're coming off turn 3 right here, fairly low RPM. You see this thing really build up on the straightaways here.
That shifting, the cars that you thought were doing that in the first race were that was relegated just to the Toyotas, Andy?
Well, I'm not sure. Like I said, we didn't cover that race, and I watched it. I just saw a couple of the in-car shots, and I believe it was this 18 car that showed him actually shifting the car.
9,394. A lot of the guys talking about they didn't want to go much over 9,500, 96, and because of how taxing this place is on engines. And got to believe if you do shift, it's really going to turn that engine. If you were to shift here, Andy, what kind of RPMs could you see?
You could see upwards of 10,500 RPMs, or maybe even 11,000 RPMs, and I think some of these guys can actually pull that off.
Edwards in the 99 car. He's a 3-time winner this year. His last win coming back in April at Texas. He also won here back in 2005. Yeah, there's the somersault for Carl with a big smile in victory lane. Lap 79, top 5, Carl Edwards, Casey Kane, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Matt Kenseth, and Greg Biffle. There are currently 39 cars on the lead lap. Only 1 car in the garage area. That's Michael Waltrip. 3 cars a lap down. That's Regan Smith, Chad McCumbee, and Robbie Gordon in 40, 41st, and 42nd, respectively.
Well, we see these 2 tires working a lot better this time, and I think that's because they had fewer laps on their left sides, and it seems to really be an advantage. And getting out front. We see Matt Kenseth. It didn't seem to work quite as well the last time, but they were probably also able to make a few adjustments that's made their car better at this point in time.
The other thing is that Mark Martin had to start so far back. He restarted 13th, so he's got a lot of cars to pass before he gets back up there with those 4 tires.
Jimmy Johnson going by the 6th car of David Reagan. That was for the 8th position. Mark is slowly marching up toward the 16. That's Martin in the 8, the 16 of Biffle. That's 5th and 6th. There goes Edwards by. He is the leader. More on him with Jamie.
Well, Doc, I've talked about how Carl Edwards and Bob Osborne are experimenting with their setup. Obviously, it's working here, but while Carl's out front, he's talking to his spotter, Jason Hidleski, asking him to help him with lines. Carl's experimenting with lines out there to see which is faster, and they're telling him he's getting faster each lap. So right now, Carl trying to figure out the fastest way around this track, and why not? He's out in clean air, and we know these cars love that clean air.
I think some others might be asking what line Carl's running, because he's the man right now. He's out front. As we see Casey Kane in second and Dale Jr. here in third. He's been able to really hang up there. Shannon?
Well, yeah, Dale Jr. is on 2 tires right now, and last week in Indy it was a big deal between Tony Eury Jr. and Dale Jr. whether they would take 2 or 4. Dale Jr. said, you know, my car just doesn't like 2 tires. Well, I asked Tony Jr. about it. He says it's not the car, it's the driver. So he does not like 2 tires on these pit stops. So this is the radio that we heard just before that last pit.
Probably going to do 2 right here. Okay, get a real big jump in track position here. I just think there'll be a lot of them that do it up front. There's 11 laps on your tires. Yeah, we're at a big track. I told you about 11 laps here. That's cool. I see what you're saying. I ain't arguing with you. You know more about that. You can have it. I'll do whatever you say.
Well, it looks like Tony Jr. got his way. He better write that down or record that and play it back the rest of the season, huh, guys?
Yeah, one of the problems is, as a crew chief, is you got to have that driver believing that that's the right call. If he doesn't go out there with a lot of confidence, you get 2 tires, you can't do anything with that track position if he doesn't believe in it. I think Tony Jr. has convinced Dale Jr. that this is the right call.
Well, I think so. And the other side of that, I always felt like that you needed to have a pretty good race car to be able to do that. You know, why put 2 tires on a race car that wasn't handling very good just to get track position? Because then you're just going to get passed by a lot of guys. But they have a lot better race car here that they can work with.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. As a crew chief, I'd rather have a car that's running in the top 10 that's not handling all that great than one running 29th that has 4 tires on it. And I think that's the deal. You know, you want to have the best handling car, but you can't put that car so far back in traffic you can't do anything with it.
Earnhardt Jr. holding on to 3rd position, so apparently that strategy is working pretty well. Edwards, Kane, Earnhardt Jr., Kenseth, and Biffle the top 5. But Tony Stewart, folks, since the restart on lap 71, has gained 11 positions. Mike?
And you pretty much could hear a major sigh of relief in the 20 camp, Doc, as he's made his way to the front. They weren't sure what to expect because they didn't get much race trim practice on Saturday afternoon. And, of course, they left here in June extremely frustrated, thinking they needed a much better race car. They started off today with a very tight race car, and then suddenly it got extremely loose. They were very aggressive on their last couple of pit stops. They've both put rubbers in and taken spring rubbers out. They've taken a big swing at it, and it seems like this car has reacted positively.
Mike, we started this race back under green 12 laps ago. We talked about how Tony's been making a move. Others have been up also trying to get up there. Jeff Gordon up there, he's gained 7 spots. Scott Briggs, Mark Martin, after that trouble on pit road, the pit stop that took him a little bit of time, gained 6. And then Kurt Busch, who spun back on lap number 8 while running in 4th spot, getting himself back in contention. '42 car of Juan Pablo Montoya. Remember, he pitted on lap 1, came back in on lap 8 because they just wanted to get this car dialed in. And I tell you what, whatever they've done with the 42 for Montoya, it has worked because he was back dead last early on at 43rd and now finds himself in the top 20 and moving toward the top 15.
If you're going to have trouble, the early part of the race is the time to have it. You got all this time to make it up, and he's making the most of it so far.
Yeah, they had a plug wire problem, and then they also worked on the car on the chassis. So they've really done a remarkable job, and just shows if you get a good car and get it handling, just what can happen. Dave, you've got more?
Yeah, DJ, and they picked up some spots during that green flag run. They were able to get the car a little bit on and off of pit road very well. As you said, they replaced the plug wire that was bad, and they've taken 4 tires the last couple of stops. Last time, loose in, tight through the middle. They made a wedge and an air pressure adjustment, and if he doesn't get nudged by the 1 car there, he'll be in good shape.
And he does get past, but doesn't get touched. And Dave, well, he almost gets past, and he's going to stay high. We'll see if he can beat Martin Truex into turn 1. Right behind him, talking about comebacks. Now, the 29 car, if you just joined our coverage, Kevin Harvick was involved in an incident, got touched on lap 1.